Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Matt Cook and the Cole Brothers. Today I'm talking about sex and dating. There's been a great decline in sexual activity. You've probably heard this. We have something like twice the number of adults who say they haven't had sex in the past year as ever before. There's two groups who aren't having sex, young and old. Old people are not having sex and they're married or they have girlfriends and they should be having sex. And I work with them a lot. Young people are not having sex because they've given up on it. They have been using porn, substituting porn for having a real girlfriend. They're using social media and screen time as a substitute for dating. There is a whole drop in the activities where you go out and hang out at the bar and just meet people, what we would call unsupervised socializing. It just doesn't happen. Young people aren't drinking alcohol nearly as much, so they're not going out and hanging out and drinking like they were. A lot of young people live at home now and they're not having sex either. There's a lot less pressure that young people have to hook up as there was even 10 or 15 years ago. And it's considered okay to have an asexual, to be asexual, or just choose not to pursue sex as a priority. Now, young men who are generally as horny as anybody are more likely than young women to report that they don't have a partner, that they're not having sex. More likely. In fact, 30% of men under 30 reported not having sex at all in the past year with a partner. There's fewer people dating. Almost half of single people in America say, I'm not interested in dating right now. Almost half. And if you look at the demo of people that would have traditionally married or been dating quite a bit and pair up, people in their 20s, you find 3 out of 10 have not been on a date at all in the past year. A third of men who are 30 say they have not had a girlfriend or had any sexual partner or any romantic interest in the past year. Now, for women have a greatly inflated sense of their value, one would argue, these days, because dating apps cater to women and they show women a plethora of men who are pursuing them. So the women raise their standards, and a lot of women are single because their standards are so high that nobody ever meets their standards. It creates an illusion of abundance for women. It creates a feeling for men of discouragement, that men feel like the Chads are going to take over and I don't have a chance. And in a way, they're right. I don't think that dating site apps are good for men at all. But I do think that it's very important and wonderful and indescribable to have a romantic partner and to be having lots of sex. And there's a way of doing it that can lead you to the most happy and amazing life that you could even dream of, where you have everything in life, more abundance than you can even imagine. And all of it involves sex. And I'm going to talk about to you as a man, because I work generally with men. There was a very famous book that sold millions of copies called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a great book. And one of the things that he talks about has a whole chapter on taking your sexual drive and converting it into a drive for abundance, into a drive for material gain, channeling it. And you'll find that men who are entrepreneurial, men who build businesses, men who conceive of great things, even not just businesses, but great art or great music, great things, these men tend to have a high sex drive. It does seem that a sex drive helps us men really gain traction in our lives and get a lot of what we want. And I put out a book called Masculine Maximizer that you can get if you head over to dailymedicaldiscoveries.com. I'll send you a copy of Masculine Maximizer. It tells you all about how to increase your sex drive and your libido and get everything you want in life with some very powerful specific techniques that you can use on a daily basis, which I myself use. And if you're already a member of my Alpha Lions, then you're going to be able to get that. Just shoot me a request for support if you need that. But because a lot of men have a much lower sex drive than they used to have, they have much lower testosterone levels, they're not having as much sex. The more sex you have, the higher your sex drive can become, the more you can accomplish. So if you're not having sex and you have a low testosterone level, it really can limit you. It's not that you can't get ahead in life, but it's a lot less likely and it's a lot harder. I consider a sex drive a lot like a powerful current. Your life is a boat on a river. If the sex drive is high, the current is carrying your boat rapidly down the rapids. You don't have to do anything. You just have to stay in your boat and you're going to be moving quickly. If you don't have a strong sex drive, it's like you're in a still pool of water. You're not going anywhere. And if you do, you have to row your boat. It's so hard to keep rowing and rowing. You don't have that sex drive current pulling you along virtually automatically. And I like to live my life so that I have that current pulling me automatically. So I'm just getting where I want to go because I have a strong sex drive. Plus, I have an amazing sex life. I have sex multiple times a day, 3, 4, or 5 times a week, almost every day, twice a day, with my wonderful romantic partner who has been with me for almost 40 years. And we have an incredible sex life. And I'm not saying this to brag, not a bit. The last thing I want to do is brag. I'm saying it because I want you to see what's possible. So you can do that yourself as well. But you have to get over those things. There's some things you really have to get over. First of all, one of the things you have to do is you have to be good at meeting women. I don't think you should be using the apps. I think you need to be socializing and meeting women in real settings. When I was in my early 20s, I was terrible with women. And I had a desk at a company next to an older gentleman. He was about 42. And he always had 2 or 3 girlfriends. They knew about each other. He never made it a secret. He was like very open about it. And he had just always like early 20s, half his age. And then they would have a great time with them, having lots of sex and have a good life. And then they would find someone else and then they would get married, but remain friends with him. Not friends like they were going to have sex again, but they were grateful to have known him. He was so honest and he was so wonderful as a boyfriend, as a partner. And he was always clear he was never monogamous and no one ever expected him to be monogamous. So I learned from him and he taught me how to pick up girls. I could go to a beach, I could go to the mall, I could go to a restaurant. I'd always be able to meet women. And I'm the last person that's good at meeting women, but he just taught me how to do it and I just did it. So I got good at it. And I know if I ever lost my wife, God forbid, I would be able to meet women again because I know how to do it. You have to just do it. And that's one of the reasons why I came up with my company with Dr. McGill, Ideal Male Labs, because I want people to meet people. And I'm on a big, trying to avoid the word crusade. I'm really working hard to have people meet other people and develop a life that is as wonderful as mine is. Because there's just nothing as good as having a partner that you can look into her eyes and you have this amazing connection and you just get hard thinking about her and you just can't get enough of each other all the time. But what typically happens though is when you meet somebody, everything's really hot. Especially now, you jump into bed on the first date, you have sex, it's really hot. It's great. We think that is going to make the relationship last a long time and make it work. Eventually, it doesn't because there's a lot of bad fallout that happens from that type of a sexual relationship. See, nature wants us to get together, and as men, they want us to impregnate a woman and just move on to a different woman. Nature doesn't really want us to stick to the same woman, so it's provided us with things that will make us a bit unhappy with our partner, so we'll start looking at other partners, because that's what our ancestors did to survive and spread the seed in the best way that they could. Women also have a similar drive. I just want to show you what nature wants for women. What nature wants for women is to have a mate, a partner, but to have some little things on the side, a few chads on the side that can impregnate her, and then she has his baby, and she has his baby, and you're the one taking care of her. That way, all these different guys get to spread their genes around, and the woman gets to take advantage of super good genes from a chad to have a super baby. That's basically what nature wants women to do. So none of this involves being happy or having a monogamous relationship. But there are these programs that we have, 2 different programs. There is a dopamine-based program of want and need, which we're constantly finding someone. We have hot sex and then we get tired of them. We have all these different hormonal processes which drive us away and drive us to other partners. This is why relationships don't work out. Then we have an oxytocin track where we get more and more in love with the same person all the time. Oxytocin allows for very powerful, long-lasting erections. So we have really good sex for a really long time. It's not about the heat of the sex. It's about the intensity and the length of time and the connection. So the oxytocin track provides for a relationship that is solid and stable and long-term. It allows us to, as men, to have a very strong sex drive, to have one partner and be so connected with her and just so head over heels for her and she with us that it just makes everything in life so amazing and wonderful. So I always try to get people on the oxytocin track, but nature kind of moves us automatically to the dopamine track. The dopamine track is how our ancestors, and many times, had us and why they were successful. Because if you think about it, the reason you're here is that every single couple in your family tree. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents, all of them were 100% successful having children. 100%. Or else you wouldn't be here, right? Because they had your grandfather and he had your dad and your dad had you, whatever, your mom. So they were very successful. So this program works, but it doesn't make you happy. So what I'm about is having a tremendous amount of sex and being happy. Sex twice a day, every day. That's really what I do, what I want for you. And I've been together almost 40 years with my wife, and I can't get enough of her. And it's just because of yes, I have a beautiful wife. Yes, I got lucky. I use my methods that Ron taught me. I met my wife. Actually, I was very shy for some reason that night when I met her, and she was the one that made the first move, which I have found is very common. Most women make the first move to meet a man. The man has to pick up on the move. That's all he has to do. And she made it very easy for me to pick up on the move and to follow through, but she made the first move. The problem is you're meeting people, you're doing it all wrong. You're having sex wrong. You're not understanding the value, the benefit, the emotional advantages of every way of having a lot of sex with a single amazing romantic partner, and how the way you have sex determines how much you love that partner and how much connection that you really have. It's really all in how you have sex. So here are my 10 great tips to start out with. I've already said that you should be meeting women in person. You shouldn't be relying on apps. Doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter if you're crummy at it. Doesn't matter. Women will like you. They're going to like you, even if you're not good at conversation. Women are usually much better at conversation than men. Estrogen promotes talkativeness. Women have a more talkative, generally, personality. They're more socially attuned than men are. They have a much deeper social network, and they're fine if you're really crummy and everything. If they like you, it's fine. You don't have to have things planned out. You don't have to be the best conversationalist. Anyway, point is you got to meet women in person. Start the relationship immediately by closing the physical space as quickly as possible, okay? That means that you really want to have a first kiss within 5 minutes. You want to be sitting next to her, not across from her. You want to have touching her. One of the things that a lot of guys have taught, and this is taught in pickup, hey, let me look at your hand. Here, give me your hand. And you take her hand. You go, oh, I can see your lifeline is really long. That means you can have, and you do this phony, it's called a cold read. But it gets you touching her. You just need to close that space very quickly. Now, I don't want you to have sex on the first date or the second date. I want you to wait for the third date. It's my personal policy because I always wait for 3 dates before I have sex. You might lose her, but she's not the one for you. The reason is because if you get close physical space, you kiss, you get close, you talk, okay, you should be very cuddly and all that for 3 dates. That gives you time for oxytocin track to activate. Otherwise, you're on the dopamine track. You're starting this thing where it's going to be very hot and very cold. It's not likely to last, not have the wonderful abundance that I'm talking about. You want to start out on the oxytocin track. You want to start out with a lot of physical contact, but not having actual sex. Okay. Number 2, you are not equal socially to a woman. There's not an equality. That doesn't work. I'm at the head of the table in my house. I'm the leader in my house. I'm the leader in bed. Now, I like my wife to take the lead. It's not that I don't, but then I'm giving her the lead. You see, the person that says, here, you take the lead, they're in control, right? Because they're giving the lead to someone. They're assuming that they have the lead. Does that make sense? It's like you're the captain of your ship and you're the captain in your house. If you delegate the piloting of the boat to someone else for a little while, that's because you're the captain. But you're not equal. Now, you don't have to be dominant. Not everyone is. A lot of men are submissive, and they should own their submission. And that's perfectly fine to be submissive. Perfectly fine. A lot of women like a submissive man to a certain extent because they are controlling women that like to run things, and they have their own ideas of how they want things, and they want a man that's going to play second fiddle to them. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, eventually, she might lose respect for you if you don't have some occasional dominance. But if you are submissive, you own your submissiveness, and you allow her to be dominant, then actually that is a form of being dominant. Like the captain who delegates the piloting of his boat to someone else, you're allowing her to take over, and you're allowing her to take over so that you're actually the dominant in that sense. Subtle point, but important. Here's the short part of this message. Be dominant or submissive. Don't try to go for equality. Generally, men, it's generally better to be dominant. Number 3, flirting all the time, touching her, patting her butt, making sexual innuendo all day long, every day. That's what I do. That's what you should do. Always treat her as a sexual object and a sexual interest. It's like not just around sex, but it's fun. And you can pat her butt. You can talk about her breasts. You can tell her how you want to go to bed with her right now. All that stuff, so that she knows she's attractive all the time. That's so critical, so important. People like us, we're going to be touching each other under the table, making footsie. And we've been together 40 years. It's fun. It's like never ends. I'll tell you what, it's a constant sexual thrill. The way my life is. Everything is around sex with my wife. You would never know it because she's very private. We don't share that generally, but everything is around sex. It's one long sex act. And we actually go to bed several times a day, but in between, lots of sex. Number 4, tell her what you want sexually. Don't do it at once. Don't give her a list. Just leak it out one step at a time. Progressive disclosure. For women, men are easy to figure out, I would say. But for women, it's a little different. For men, it's a little different. So men want sex. Woman tries to draw the semen out of a guy, basically. That's not how they look at it, but that's what happens. And then that makes a man weak because he's spilling his wad and he's basically lost his sexual energy. There's the Bible story of Samson. Samson was the strongest man on earth. The problem was that he was only strong because of his hair. And so he slept with this woman, Delilah. And when he was sleeping afterwards, she cut his hair and they tied him up and enslaved him because he had no strength after he had come. Now, that part of it, having come, wasn't in the Bible, but that's obviously what it was about. Women who draw the semen out of a man comes a lot. Woman becomes less attentive to him, more interested in other men. They see the flaws. For the guy, he sees the flaws in the woman. She just doesn't look very good anymore. He sees other women as more desirable. So it's really awful. But tell her what you want. Her on top, you want her to do this, you want to do that. Just tell her what you want, have what you want. It doesn't matter. There's really nothing you can think of that hasn't been thought of a billion trillion times, whatever it happens to be. Number 5, keep stroking, stay physical. Words are one thing, stroking is another. We are physical beings. Stroke, touch. My favorite way of touching is like a very soft touch. It's called hand gliding, where you glide your hand over her skin, where there's like a microscopic layer of air below your fingertips. You can feel her skin, but there's almost a layer of air. It's like really amazing. And there's places like the nape of the neck, the breasts, or your chest, the back of her wrists, different places that you can even do in public that are really sensual and amazing. Number 6, schedule sex. I know people disagree with me on this one. Oh my God, Matt, it's not spontaneous. Yeah, it's not. But I'd rather know I'm having sex. And before we started doing it twice a day, we would have it every other day. And before that, we would have it like everyone else does, like when we felt like it. And when we felt like it, became less and less often. And then I started using porn more, and we ended up really in a low part of our relationship. Thank goodness I realized what was going on and changed it all around, because otherwise we'd just be another unhappy couple with a dead bedroom. Scheduled sex. The reason is because when I wasn't scheduling it, I was feeling like I was trying to manipulate her all the time into bed because I wanted sex so much. And then I was trying to manipulate her, applying pressure points, and I didn't like myself being manipulative. Then you're always trying to like, oh, maybe I'll get a reward. Maybe she'll go to bed with me if I do this or that. It's awful. So it's better just to schedule it. Sex in the morning is when we do it. Morning sex, we do it in the evening too, but morning sex is the best. Morning sex is the very best because you're having an empty stomach, your hormonal levels are good. That's the best time. Number 7, look into each other's eyes. Have you ever spent a minute looking in your partner's eyes? Or 2 minutes? It's really incredible. Get lost in her eyes. If you're going to come, look into her eyes and come with your eyes open. The only way to come. Eyes open. It's an incredible connection. Number 8, don't stop kissing on the mouth. And the best way is locking lips. And a long time, not necessarily all liquidy, dry your lips so you're not all slobbery, but lock lips and then run your tongue against hers and have her run her tongue and the tips of your tongue are at each other. And you just hold that and you just kiss for a really long time. I just watched a documentary about the life of Paul Rubens, you might have known as Pee Wee Herman. And he had a movie he talked about in the documentary called Big Top Pee Wee, which was apparently a terrible movie. Even he said so. But there was a scene he insisted on having in there where he has 2 minutes of kissing this woman on camera. And they all said, Pee Wee or Paul, we don't want that. Cut the scene, make it a few seconds. No. And he had the rights, the final cut rights. So they couldn't do anything. And he had it at 2 minutes. And they had a lot of it, not the whole 2 minutes, but they had a lot of it on the documentary. And you go, oh my God, I can't believe this keeps going on and on. But when you're doing it, it's amazing. Not watching, doing. Amazing. Lock lips. Tell her that. Tell her, hey, no, lock lips with me. Tell her what you want. Number 9, don't ejaculate too often. Save your semen. Save your semen. Saving your semen is the key to your life as a man. Don't be like Samson where you lose all your semen and you're weak. The only thing the way to do this, there's two ways of doing this. The way I do it is, which I like, is I just have a schedule, which generally is every 4 days. So I have a lot of sex and it builds up. And then at some point, I actually feel like less horny and my erections get to be poor. That's when I come because that resets everything. And this is very common how men work in their anatomy. But it could be a week or 2 weeks for you, or 3 days if you're really young and in great shape. For me, it's 4 days. The schedule, in other words, should be as long as possible given your health and your situation. So if you're on a lot of medications and you have some physical problems, maybe once every 2 weeks. For someone who's really healthy, once every 4 days. If you're 20 years old and having a lot of sex, once every 2 or 3 days. But I would say 3 or 4 days is probably the best for most people if they're really healthy. And that way, all the rest of the time, you're going to do root focus. You're going to relax your roots so you're not going to get all excited and get blue balls and feel like painful there. There's a whole way of doing it, which I teach in my book called Masculine Maximizer, exact exercise to do this. You can build an incredible sex drive and you're always having sex and it's an amazing life. You just don't come all the time. It's easy enough. Number 10, avoid all video and all photo porn of every type. If a movie comes on, a scene in a movie on your TV, you're watching at home and there's a sex scene, turn away. If you are looking on the internet and there's some sexy thing, defocus your eyes, turn away, don't look at it. Absolutely never watch video porn, never use photo porn. If you do use porn, the written erotica kind of porn is less damaging, but video and photo porn are very damaging. They are very damaging in the brain. They make us very unhappy with our lives, with our sex life, make us programmed to not want our partner anymore. They're just terrible, so don't use them. And number 11, if you have a partner, masturbate in the presence of your partner. Maybe you can get her to help you. Maybe you can help her. Don't do it solo anymore. So much better with someone else. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this sort of ejaculatory discipline. The way I do it is just limiting it myself. You could, if you have a girlfriend that's receptive, your wife receptive, you could have her control your orgasms and telling you when you can come. And it can be fun, especially if you enjoy the submissive role sometimes. You can beg her to allow you to come and you can listen to her and she can be the telling you when you can and can't. And that if you tell her, give her the briefing, the instructions, what you really want, tell her not to give in too often and all that, it could be a lot of fun. So you could have fun with that too. And you could go into, some couples have consequences. The wife spanks the man, her husband, if he comes when he's not supposed to. If you like, that's fine. I do it without that, but there's no right or wrong in any of this, but it's really, there is right or wrong about not coming too often. So those are the 2 ways you can do it. Either your self-discipline or you can entrust your wonderful girlfriend or wife to that self-discipline. But that's really basically it. You want to be sexual a lot. You want to love someone a lot. And you want to build up oxytocin, that wonderful hormone. And the reason that you can do that is it's primarily ejaculatory frequency. So and frequency of sex. If you have a lot of sex and low frequency of ejaculation, you're going to have an incredible life. You're going to build oxytocin and your brain lights up when your partner's around and you're going to have the most amazing life possible. And here's a little interesting fact here. There's a worm, which they call a nematode. It's a very fancy word for worm, little tiny worm. And they will genetically engineer a worm to not have any semen production. And that male worm without semen production lives 65% longer because reducing sperm production extends the life of the male. And for us as human beings, as men, if we are not ejaculating all the time, but just on a schedule, we're conserving our sperm. But if we have a lot of sex without that, we're going to have a very big sex drive. We're going to feel amazing, and we're going to have conserving our strength. We're going to be building our strength. Lack of sexual activity lowers testosterone. Coming too much lowers testosterone. If you have fewer ejaculations, the seminal vesicles that store sperm increase in size, actually. And there's something that's profoundly satisfying about partner sex versus solo sex. And more than that, vaginal sex, penis and vagina sex, is very satisfying and amazing compared to oral or anal sex, which can be fun, but they don't have that satisfaction. There's a satisfaction following intercourse, PIV sex, penis and vagina sex, which is much greater than there is with other types of sex, including solo sex. They had a study where they had men that would ejaculate 2 to 4 times a day for 10 days. Keep that in mind, 2 to 4 times a day for 10 days. These were younger men. And their semen output and their sperm output was lower for 6 full months to a quarter of what it is normally. Ejaculating 2 to 4 times a day for 10 days lowered their sperm and their semen output to a quarter of the normal levels. That shows you the cost of frequent ejaculations. When you don't ejaculate that often, your testes get bigger, you get bigger balls, correlates with higher testosterone, lower LH, and lower FSH, which are very good things. And when you have someone you really love and dig, you're touching each other, there's this firing in your brain, there's this the pleasure centers, even when you're not having sex. It's absolutely amazing. So while this type of sex, which I call nirvana sex, my apologies to Hindus, we just use the Western term nirvana sex, raises testosterone levels, raises our interest in our partner, raises the abundance we have in life, raises the amount of times we want to have sex. It makes everything so much more wonderful. Standard sexual activities lowers testosterone and drives us away from our partner. We just don't notice it because we never knew any different. You will know different when you try this. All right? If you love my work, head over to dailymedicaldiscoveries.com and join me. If you want to get some of our wonderful products, you can go to shop.idealmale.com, purchase our pheromone colognes. We make our own factory in Fenton, Missouri, with the finest of perfume oils and real animalic accords throughout the entire world. Incredible products. We're coming out with a shampoo that's a 4-in-1 shampoo, which has pheromones in it. We have a deodorant we're developing. We have incredible products for men that want to attract women and keep women. We have a female line we've had for a while that's expanding also. And I hope and believe, I know that God is shining His light and His love on you, your family, your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors. And like I like to say to everyone I meet, because we all are going to live to 120, we're going to extend our lives to live to 120. I will see you at 120.